there's that, and that just, that gets handed out to them. This is just. Oh, sure. Okay.
Madison Area Public Schools Board of Education meeting called to order at 7 p.m. Do I have any additions to the agenda? If not, then I would like a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion by Jim, second by Paul. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. All right, we move on to celebration of MAP success. Madison Kindergarten Teachers Registration Clinic.
Something?
Hi. Yeah.
Come on up.
I'll introduce. This is Christina Baika. You work with 5CAP and a variety, or
I am Great Start to Quality.
Great Start to Quality. She does a lot of measuring and seeing indicators of early childhood educational growth in Manistee County. She travels from preschool to daycares to kind of measure the quality of the programs to ensure that kids are getting the very best early childhood programming. And she has been giving us an exceptional amount of help in our new endeavor, which is this kindergarten clinic, which we have been working oh so diligently at. And I know you don't like snow days, but you'll be proud of us. On a couple of those snow days, we had the entire staff in on a snow day to work.
Who you're talking to?
I'm talking to Mr. No Snow Joe. So just to let you know that some of those snow days were put to very good work. Beth Adams, one of the teachers over at Madison, and did Allison, where'd she go? Oh, there she was, okay. She's also been giving us a ton of help. Everybody on the staff has really been working hard. It's been a group effort. It's something that's been kind of in the eyes and the forefront of a lot of the early elementary people for a long time, and it's now going to come to fruition this school year. And Kindergarten Clinic is going to take the place of what was once known as Kindergarten Roundup, and we're going to be making a lot of data-based decisions on helping kids find the resources and families find the resources they need prior to them getting into kindergarten to start off their life as a MAP student. So we're really excited about this, and ladies are going to present a little bit more information. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'd be glad to entertain any questions.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
We're here tonight just because we are very excited about what we're going to get started here in kindergarten. And we just wanted you guys to know what we're putting in place. And so if you're hearing in the community about this clinic, you might be able to talk about how beneficial it will be for our future students. In front of you, Kim Fisher has been heading this project up with Christina, and we've all been kind of supporting her. And so she put this packet together for you. And what it is, it's to talk about our kindergarten clinic. It comes to you with a combined effort of many, many hours of hard work above and beyond our regular school day. Like Matt said, we work our snow days, before and after school, weekends, late nights. And many community agencies have collaboratively worked to help make this project run smoothly. And it says, since this is our first year, we have done our best to foresee any problems. It is an ongoing learning process for us, of course, because it's our first time doing it. And many adjustments have already been made with suggestions and help from our community members, teachers, and other agencies. We'd like to recognize our Cadillac area schools for sharing with us. They've shared the process and procedures they have been using for over 10 years. So we've been reaching out to a school district who's already lived this and done this for several years. So they said, we're going to, also with the kindergarten clinic, we're also going to take our Young Fives program and we're going to rename it to Junior Kindergarten because there are so many misconceptions with Young Fives. Parents seem to think that their children have to be young in order to be into that program. And that's not necessarily what it's for. What that program is for is to help children who are developmentally not ready to go into kindergarten. Academically, socially, any case may be, they're just not ready for that kindergarten year. It gives them that extra year to grow, to learn through play, before they have such pressure of academics on them. Coming from a preschool background, I've learned that it's very important to learn through play and to learn socially how to get along with your peers before you have to go in and learn all the academics too. And kindergarten is not like it used to be for all of us. We have to be, reading, counting to 100, learning so many sight words before we're leaving kindergarten and going to first grade. Well, we look at first grade and we say, okay, some of these children weren't ready for first grade, but keeping them back in kindergarten isn't necessarily going to be beneficial for them either. So what can we do? So we thought, let's get this screening process in place so that we can make sure that we're setting our students up for success. We know where they're coming in to us, and we know why, we know where do they need to be placed properly. Should it be in kindergarten or should it be in junior kindergarten?
And what we don't know with the preschool end of it is 50% of our children in Manistee County get a preschool experience. So now they're coming and they're enrolling for kindergarten, but we want to see where their skills are at from that point. Because 50% may have it, 50% don't. How do you place those children? Once they get into kindergarten, they get into first grade, you have the testing that's already being done. When they come into kindergarten, you have no data to support that. So this is not a testing, it is just an assessment to see where children are at. What level are they functioning at? Can they cut on a straight line? Do they know their letters? Very, very simple things. I'm sure Shelley knows it, she works on that. But some people don't know, and the other part of it is parents don't know. So the really cool thing about this, not all parents know what's expected in kindergarten. How are we going to get that information out to them, like for your child to be ready? Well, this is a way for us to take this data, share it with parents that day. They'll have it going out there. This means the kids and the parents have it in April. They can work on some of these things to get the children more ready for September so that the success rate is higher.
Okay. And I want to talk about how this is not a test. This is just a screen. This is to get a snapshot of the child and where they at. It gives us information for them that where should they be placed, junior kindergarten, kindergarten, or where are they coming in kindergarten. It already gives us a snapshot of the child so we can help balance our classrooms out better. So that when they're coming into me the first day, I already know how I might end up differentiating my instruction or how I might group my children for that first week or two. Yes, they're going to go over the summer, but I can still have a general idea of where they're at coming into us, because with kindergarten, some have preschool experience, some don't have any social experience, daycare or preschool, and some, they just come to us with a very many variety of backgrounds, and we have to then weed out and figure out where they're at. And this has already given us a step to do that. So I just think it's going to be very beneficial. Our clinic is going to be April 29th. They're going to be trained staff. We have a retired teacher. We have our parapros. They're going to be doing the screening with the children. We also are going to get a parent input. We have a survey for the parents to fill out to talk to us about their child. So that we are the only ones doing the snapshot of this child, but we're also getting the parent input too. So that way we can see where they at maybe socially, in their parents' eyes.
And then speech and language, that seems to be
Yes.
one of the things that we see is a need in the community. We'll be able to know what children might need that scaffolding or the services of speech and language and occupational therapy. They both will be there and doing just quick 5-minute screenings so that we can at least have the children on the radar that day. And the other thing is the health department is doing hearing and vision testing. And the nice thing about that is parents won't have to make 2 appointments. When they are done with this day, this hour that they are at the school, their child is completely registered, their paperwork is done, their hearing and vision is done, and they're ready to go. And I think it's parent convenience as well, which, you know, the first year, you know, people might not be as fun, but after that, I think it's gonna go very, very well, and we're seeing quite a bit of interest in it.
Registration forms have been given to daycares, preschools, Jefferson, Madison students, article in the local paper with information. There's an ATP Facebook page, it's been on there. Link to download from our Madison school website, or they can even call Connie at the office. So we're trying to make it an easy access for them to get their hands on it, to get that registration form filled out. We're also trying to eliminate the first week of school getting 20 children enrolled or more. We're trying to get them enrolled sooner so that we can figure out what our numbers are too, and where we need to have everybody placed.
And so the children don't go through the transition of changing classrooms or changing teachers, so we can have that before. And Cadillac has 100% registration on their registration day.
Fantastic.
And you know, with the exception of move-ins or new move-ins. So that's the ultimate goal, is academic success, and then staff alignment.
That is, definitely gonna be a transition for everybody to get used to this new system, but I think once they do, they'll like it. We've been getting a lot of really good feedback from it so far. But I know that some people, parents are concerned and are nervous about it too, because they think it's a test on their child and are their children gonna pass it. And so we really wanna make sure that they know that it's not a pass or fail, it's just a screen, just to get a basic snapshot of where they're at.
Any questions?
Because you probably mentioned it, because there's a lot of talking about it.
Sorry.
We're trying to fit it in, so.
I'm just, if you don't make it, then you have a makeup day, or is it?
Yeah, well, we are gonna be very flexible and reschedule with parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whomever the adult is that can bring them in. We will be very flexible. And the people I've talked to, you know, they may have a family trip planned, or they're not in town. We'll completely be able to work around that. And what we're trying to do is, there's a couple really big goals here. One of which, we're partnering with like five community agencies. We're gonna have OTs there, occupational therapists, speech and language there. We're gonna have the health department there. Arlie will be there. She can actually put in her computer all the immunization tests and dates. And this is huge right now, because, I mean, if you watch the news, there's all this stuff about immunizations. Think about 110 or 20 kids coming into school, many of which are anywhere from not immunized to everything's done. And part of what our job is to do by October sometime, like I think it's like October 15th, we start getting the warning bells off, that everybody, we need to be at 90-some%. And so we're constantly scrambling, trying to find these people. And this year, to my knowledge, was one of the first years we actually sent letters out to parents saying, your kid can't come back to school because you haven't done this yet. And it wasn't for a lack of us, you know, calling them and trying, they just didn't do it. So starting this early, we're hoping that we eliminate this whole process. We're hoping to gain about a month of instruction by doing this and having the data, having these kids placed right, having classrooms that are all similarly balanced with some challenged students, some middle achieving students, and some high achieving students, because that's what's the best for kids' success. And right now, it's kind of a crapshoot every year, because you don't know. Half the kids, you have no clue what they're coming in with. You know, and about the first 2 weeks of school, we're trying to plug the holes, and if we have those holes plugged on day one, we're gaining weeks and weeks of instruction. And we have 6 months then, we're gonna have a whole, like, parent information packet about things that they can do with their kids over the summertime, the expectations to start kindergarten, what they're expected to have at the end, so they can start working with their son or daughter in those times, reading to them, looking at numbers, books, doing sequences, all those things. We're looking at kind of the big picture for an overall great start to kindergarten. So there's a lot of goals that we have in mind, and one of which is, you know, getting the parents on board, making sure we're functioning as efficiently as humanly possible, and getting kids extra instructional time, which then gets them ahead of the game big push is, if you're not reading at grade level by third grade, they're talking about that nobody gets to go beyond that level until you read it.
It's a little bit of a culture change too. for the
Huge.
school, which is a good thing. Well, how do you get this message out?
I'm on the radio next week
Are you?
with, Dave. He's got like a morning show now.
Yeah.
He's into everything. Everywhere we go, there's Dave, he's a guest. So I
As-
emailed him and I'm gonna be on his radio show too.
We've set it up to the HSCB, again, all the daycare, all the preschools. I'm actually going to Lubbock to sign parents up right there. We've contacted Head Start, we have GSRP cooperating, and then just word of mouth, we're putting on Facebook pages.
Yep. We'll have some
Big
advertising.
in the paper.
We are good.
Yeah.
So but if you have other suggestions, we're happy to take them.
Okay.
Well, the doctor's offices would be nice, you know, just to touch base
Yeah.
with them so they can pass information on.
That's great, we can get that.
So, I think it's a great thing, especially to get the early jump, so when we go through this screening, and we'll be placing kids in junior kindergarten, or?
There's, junior kindergarten is it's currently called Young Fives, and that goes back to a day where, I mean, your birthday had to be on or before, December 1st, and so we had a lot of these younger kids come in. The state has been rolling that back, and a lot of those, we don't see that many kids in the that age bracket anymore, only if parents are willing to sign a waiver. So obviously, they can still sign a waiver, but the flow of those kids is dropping off. But when we look back at what we're getting in the door, we're seeing some kids that aren't necessarily young, but their needs are social, emotional, and some academic, which means they have not been in a preschool. They have not gone to a daycare. They're not used to being around a bunch of kids. And it may seem kind of not a big deal. Well, you get them together and it's a little scary. You're herding cats, so the first couple of weeks, this is my third year, and the first year I thought this is never ever gonna work. And then it started coming around, I'm like, oh. So we're just trying to look for really data-driven decisions that we can make to help kids be in the right spot, be in a classroom with similar type kids. There's low, medium, high achieving kids that all help each other. Because right now, it's again, you get a group of kids you know nothing about, and we're going into the second week of school saying, okay, we gotta get these.
I just gotta interrupt,
Yeah.
make sure everybody, we're not ability grouping children.
No.
At all.
No,
No.
Not
It's
at all.
it's called a
No.
heterogeneous group, right? That you want a group of a lot of boys and girls of all different grades. As opposed to, if you don't know anything about them, you might get a group of kids that are, that all need extra help. So it really helps us put the resources we have available to us to the right people.
And we don't have the baselines yet. This will be the year that the baselines are kind of developed, who would qualify for junior kindergarten, who is ready to go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And that's something the whole team will discuss and manage to make sure that, everybody is in the right place and that we have that data going forward.
But the
What does that look
trend
like?
we're seeing is not a lot of young kids. The trend we're seeing is kids that need extra help socially, emotionally, and with their academics.
So they'd be placed in the
Yeah,
junior
those
kindergarten,
potential
the
kids
next
would be
year
in
they'd
it.
go into.
Yeah, they do a year of junior kindergarten, then go to kindergarten. So it's a 2-year process.
If they need additional help, if they're not quite ready for the kindergarten curriculum at this point.
So that'll probably impact our numbers.
Well, we already have that program in
It's
place.
currently in place, so.
It's already in place right now, but it's just by parent choice or a glimpse that we've had of the child, and we might guide the parents to put them there. But this will give us a better snapshot of the child and the parents' input on their child to say, okay, because some parents think, oh, my child's young, they just really need to go in Young Fives, but academically and socially, they're actually ready for kindergarten, and they could succeed in kindergarten. And so we don't want to take that spot in junior kindergarten. We don't want to take that spot and place a child who's able to go to kindergarten and succeed, and have a child in kindergarten who is going to struggle the whole year because they're not comfortable with their peers because they've never been with peers before, and so then they just can't open up academically either, and now they have to be held back. Where they could have been in junior kindergarten and been
Correctly,
able to
get in the right place.
yeah, to put them, placing them correctly, and let them have that year to grow and to learn how to be around peers, or to learn a little bit more academics before they come into kindergarten. And then that way they're not repeating the same curriculum twice. So.
It's huge, it's great idea. It's like, no child left behind.
We're just trying, you know, get as high speed and clean as we can get.
Do the kindergarten teachers still make home visits
They do.
prior to? I think that is one of the best things. It's exciting, yeah.
So, you know, I see this as a kind of a continuation of our district-wide effort to really start thinking ahead, plan ahead.
Well,
it's
and one of the
just
things
gonna help out.
we're consciously striving for is, we wanna get as much of that parental support and get the home base, working with the school. And the earlier we can start that and get that two-way communication and connection going.
Sounds great. Let us know
Thank
how it
you.
goes. Yeah.
We will, we'll keep you posted. If you have any other questions, shoot me an email or whatever.
Thank you, thank you so much.
Continuing to celebrate success for our students, Rotary International, Dominican Republic School Church Children Project.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Introduce yourselves, please.
All right, so,
I'm Bryce,
hi, I'm
senior.
Taylor.
I'm Caroline, I'm Sophie.
And we're all seniors at Manistee High School, and we just went the first week in February to the Dominican Republic on a service trip to help build a church and community center in a little village in Santo Domingo. And there was 11 of us, 8 from Manistee High School and 3 from Manistee Catholic Central that went, and we had a really great time and learned a lot. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we did down there. So this is what it looked like when we first got off the plane, and immediately we realized how different it was from America, Manistee, and there was different cars and motorcycles everywhere and no real traffic rules or anything, so the bus we were on was just weaving around a bunch of cars, and it was kind of scary, but exciting too. It was exciting, and it wasn't as like built up, and it was just like little shops along the road. This was our view from the compound where we stayed, the guest house, and you could go up on the roof and see the view and look all around, so that was pretty cool.
So like Taylor said, what we were building is a church, or like a community center. And the main job that we were doing was laying brick and pouring concrete. Now you have to keep in mind that they don't have, you know, an Elmer's truck that they can just call up and come in to pour concrete. They, you know, they mix it. They had a mixer, which was the only piece of automation that we could use. But other than that, everything was by hand. You know, wheelbarrows, buckets, shovels, all of that. So it was a lot of hard work, but it was all worth it in the end. And we all felt great about the work that we were doing. So there's just a couple more pictures of us laying brick. We had to haul that by hand too. We had to get it up one story. So what we did was there was a ramp that was there, and we just made a chain of people and, you know, passed them on down the line, and you know, the work got done. So.
And it was so different, like you can see here, there wasn't like levels or anything like that. It was all done just by hand.
Yeah, we just had like this string, and as long as it evened up with the string, it was good. Like, that's all they have, really.
So one of the big things that we focused on in the when we learned about the Dominican Republic was the poverty, and the reason that, doing some research, we found that the reason that the Dominican Republic is like so in poverty is, one of their main things that they do is agriculture, and that's basically all they have, the only thing that they have to make money for their country. So, when that fails and when there isn't good, like, output of crops that year, the whole country is then, becomes worse off. So, in turn, there's like lack of work, no real medical treatment, no good water system, no good, like garbage system, or anything, and, overall, the annual income is only $5,470 for each family.
So like Taylor was saying, like, they didn't really have like any kind of, like garbage system or anything, so like, just walking by, this is what you would see, just garbage everywhere, like random bread, water, by someone's home. This is where they would throw all their, trash into like this little river ditch, but they don't know that like the contamination in the water is bad, and like they just don't have like any education on like how their impact is affecting the environment. So it was really sad, like that they don't have that. And I remember one day I like picked up some trash and then I didn't know what to do with it because they don't even have like trash cans or anything. So it was just crazy to see. And then this is like their lifestyle, just things that would be surprising to us in America are just normal for them, like a little girl like cleaning, like 3 or 4 years old, dogs on the roof, it's like their everyday life. So.
The dogs, most of the dogs weren't actually on the roof, those were like the more well-off dogs who were actually taking care of the same with the family. Most of the dogs were running around in the streets and collecting fleas and other diseases, so you don't see that at all here, really.
Yeah, and then this is just more of like their everyday life, like chickens roaming, some views.
It was a really big eye-opener seeing how different things are, you know, in different parts of the world. I think that was the biggest thing, was, you know, the differences.
So one of the biggest things we got to experience there was interacting with the people and the children and all that kind of stuff. So every morning we'd wake up and we'd have breakfast and then we'd walk to the work site, and it was like a 10-15 minute walk, and we went into the barrios, which was what the little like communities were called, and there was a bunch of like shacks and houses made from basically just tin, and we'd be sitting there and it was like a parade, all the people standing outside their houses, just didn't really have, like, that's what they did all day long, just interacting with each other, but they loved seeing us there and having us be there, like knowing that we were helping them out, and they like shout Americanos and we'd give them candy, and they loved it. So then we'd get to the work site and we'd work, and it was really hot down there, not anything like we have going on here right now, even though it's a little bit warmer. And so we would get water breaks, and during the water breaks we could interact with the kids that would all be there at the basketball court another group before us had put in. And then they, as we leave, they hold our hands and jump in our arms, and they loved us. They loved having us there.
That's just more of the kids like swarming us for candy. They loved them. It was just really fun to interact with them.
So this is where we were staying. It was a compound, and it was called the Lighthouse Center. And they had, you know, the bunkhouse where we stayed was part of it, but then the main part was a big school. And it was a private school, so, you know, the kids would be sponsored by Americans or, you know, people from around the world who, you know, pay to sponsor them for their, pay for their education and things. And they'd go, and there was only a handful of fields that they could go into. You know, electricity was one of them, construction, things along those lines. This is just a couple pictures of one of the shops. I think, what was this one? This one might have been the one of the construction just things that they could do to learn and, try to get a career or a job to make some money, so.
And keep in mind, this is like one of the better classrooms
Yeah.
that a lot of places and schools didn't have this, but this group that we worked with has about 26 groups like us come in a year, and they'll stay for a week, and they built the guest house that we stayed in, and the school, and everything like that, so this group has done a lot for that community.
These are like things you'd see on the street. A lot of people, like, since there weren't really jobs, they would try to fend for themselves, so they would grow fruit and vegetables and stuff. And like a lot of the kids, like, if they couldn't afford school, or like sometimes they just wouldn't go. Like Felix, the guy who kind of hung out with us most of the time, he said that like a lot of the kids would skip school just to see us. So. It wasn't really strict. Yeah.
So, there's some more of the people, and just kind of an idea of like how different it was. When we were like at the beach here, there's like this wall that like people after the wall, like we weren't really supposed to cross it because people could approach you and like try to sell you things, and they would just kind of like almost harass you until you bought it. So like I was there, and these ladies were explaining to me like how they could do my hair and all these braids and stuff, and I was just like, oh, like I don't have any money, and they were just like, okay, you pay me later, and pushed me down in the chair and started braiding my hair. So I mean, it was just different. Like people just were pushy and wanted a way to get money.
Yeah. They also knew we were Americans and we'd give in to it because we're confused.
Didn't understand the language.
Yeah. Like those guys in that right picture where they sat on their motorcycles every morning that we could come right outside our wall. You can see that green wall, that's like the inside of our little compound of the school. And they're just friendly, like you aren't afraid to say hello and walk past people. Like of course you have to be in your group, but everyone's just hello, hello all the time, like friendly. It's very like, we were explaining to the fifth graders that like you can talk to people and like say hello on the street and sort of keep your head down and keep walking if you don't know a stranger. So it's just interesting that way.
So this is kind of where we stayed, the bathrooms. It was, then the food, it was a lot better than we were told, so we were excited about that. The food was really, really delicious, and that wasn't really what the Dominicans ate, but I asked this one girl what her favorite food was, and she said, well, all we really eat is rice, beans, and chicken, so I guess rice, beans, and chicken. So.
Yeah, we were really lucky to have like a variety of food every day. So.
It was delicious.
Yeah. And one of the cultural shock things that no one told us before we got there was the bathrooms. You don't flush any of your toilet paper, you throw it all the way in the trash bin next to you. We kept our window open and it didn't bother us one bit, and most of us did it when we got home, and parents didn't appreciate that, but they used to it, and it's not so gross after the first day, to be honest with you, so. Yeah.
So overall, it was just really cool experience, and it was the biggest thing is it was like amazing to see what we could really do to make a difference in the lives of these people, even though it was just a week that we were down there. Made us realizing that just like smiling and waving and giving them a piece of candy really made a difference. So, and we'd also like to thank all the schools and everybody for making, and the Rotary Club for making this possible for us.
You had to come up with the money yourself.
Yeah, we fundraised, and we did one fundraiser at the school during one of the basketball games. We did a silent auction where we collected a bunch of stuff throughout the community, and there was a lot of donations from different businesses that were made to help us out.
I see that Mitch and Daryl are here too. These were the chaperones for this trip, and they spent a lot of time and effort into making this work. How many years have you been doing this?
This was my 4th year.
I've been 6 times.
Great. Thank you. Good experience. You guys have any questions, comments?
I can't let it go. Both these guys, you talk about what Rotary is about, and it's service above self. spending a week in a tropical country with 18-year-old teenagers, I know is what we all desire to do. But they have been doing it, not just volunteering to do this, but taking their hard-earned vacations to do this. And gentlemen, my highest regards for your love of children. It's really remarkable.
I just want to congratulate the kids coming in because they were amazing. They were excellent. We didn't have any issues with them whatsoever. So Nancy can be very proud of these students.
Even my grandson.
Yes, he was.
Even my
Every once in a while, Taylor would get out of hand and we'd have to rein her in.
I think now we've taken 23 Manistee students to the Dominican. And it's really, for me, it's 50% of the mission is the building, but 50% of the mission is really teaching our young adults what it is to be a world citizen. And it's really amazing to watch them growing right in front of your eyes. They're all great kids. They were all excellent. They worked hard, and they all have. But to see them seeing the world differently right in front of your eyes is every bit as important as any brick that's ever laid by our unprofessional hands, make no bones about it. And we just really appreciate the school in itself really giving Daryl and I the opportunity to come to the schools and present this program to the youth, and such great participation from MAPS. And we just hope that we're able to continue this in the future. It's almost like changing the world one student at a time is the way I explain it. And I think it's really that simple. The more we can teach our students that how you live in Manistee in the United States is not how everyone else lives around the world, I think we all come away with a deeper appreciation. And just thank you very much for allowing us that opportunity to take the students with us.
Thank you. And just remember, you don't have to go to the Dominican Republic and change the world one student at a time, right? We're doing it here. We move on to public communication. This portion of the agenda is for persons to address the board. This section is limited to 3 minutes per individual, and this is only for those items that appear on the agenda. There will be a second public communication and comment period at the end of the meeting. Do you have anything?
Yep, Lynn Vasquez. Is this okay? Yeah,
Sure. Thanks.
My name's Lynn Vasquez. My husband and I choose to send our kids to Manistee area public schools. Right now we have a preschooler and a second grader. Isabella is a second grader at Jefferson Elementary. Mr. Huber is her principal, which I cannot say enough good things about that. She's very comfortable with him and does not hesitate to go to him if there's an issue. Christine Slavinsky is her teacher, and I'm above impressed with Christine. She does a great job with the students. Now that brings me to, she has 33 students in her class, in that one classroom. To me, as a parent, that's unacceptable. Maybe a lot of kids will do okay in that situation with that group, that size of group. To me, I see my daughter will find a corner and pull herself and pull back. It's just too many kids. Yes, they have a parapro in there right now, and nothing against parapros. I think they do a fantastic job, and they're a huge asset to the schools. It's not the same as having a teacher. 33 students in one classroom, to me, is unmanageable. I don't know, I've never been a teacher, and it's not a profession I have ever looked into, but trying to teach and manage and motivate 33 students, I don't see how they're set up to exceed, to excel. Emotionally, educationally, it just is not in the best interest of our students. I put my trust in you as a board, and it's your responsibility to make sure that this does not go overlooked. maybe we need to drop it down to 25 students per teacher. I don't know the answers. All I do know is that I cannot allow my child to be in a large class like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. We will be discussing that on the agenda later on. Anything else? That was it? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to board committee student representative report. Steve, that report. You got a video for us, right?
Yes, we do.
All right. Thank you.
First, what was I gonna say? Excuse me. We had our last meeting yesterday, and 8 students plus Mr. Cott were there. We watched our school respect video, and that was made by a few of our students, and it was very good, I must say. And then we talked about what we wanted for electives in upcoming years, and what activities or changes would make our school lives better. So previously, like, we have talked about, we brought up the issue of school respect and like how we think that high school students, we're noticing, like, don't respect our building and like what we have. And so we asked our video productions class to make a video on how to promote and like how to bring attention that people aren't really respecting our building. And so Kayla and Audrey put together a video.
I'm Brian Bain. I'm the video production teacher at MAPS, and I was here a couple of months ago and listening to one of the issues that the advisory committee brought, and they came up with this idea of a video. So Mr. Cott reminded me of it a little bit later on, and I presented it to the class. In our class, we get a chance to do those kind of projects. And so Kayla Willem, who's right here, who was one part of the people that made the video, and Audrey Padilla volunteered to do the video. And what I really liked about it was that they presented to be respectful to the school in a not so preachy way. And I thought it was very well done, and so I asked if we could present it here, and so I will start it out. And that's my background, like that. That's our drone. We got a drone.
I think it's a shame because I think we have a wonderful school here. It's a beautiful building. It's not very old. And it's a shame when people don't treat it with a lot more respect than they probably should for being a new building.
I think school destruction is a growing problem in our school that we need to address and fix because it kind of threatens, how students feel about their safety. I think people do it because there's no punishment. They don't think anything's going to happen, so they just do it as something to do. And I think we just need to set rules to enforce, to prevent people from hurting the things around them.
Stall doors getting busted, kicked in, door handles getting broken. It costs the school district a lot of money to repair that stuff. If they were to do that at home, what do you think their parents would say?
if we didn't have to constantly replace stuff that was being damaged, that money could be spent on other things, for students and for the school in general. I mean, the biggest thing is we hope that students appreciate what the community allowed us to have here by building this wonderful building. It's a great school, and we just hope that the students would treat it with respect as much as possible.
That's it. With videos, the video should speak for itself, and so that's kind of how we approach that in class. And our plan was to share it with the students at MAPS soon, so we'll figure that out. So, thank you.
Thank you. Great video production, editing, and great idea. Thank you. All right, moving on. First item under correspondence and superintendent's report. Jefferson enrollment in second grade.
Yes, Mr. Huber, Mr. Box.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Lynn for coming in. She's always been a great parent at Jefferson. And our other parents, we actually have Tracy and Melinda here. So actually we have 4 parents here with children in that classroom that have a similar concern. So, and by the way, Lynn, thanks for donating the trophies for field day. She just found out about that, so we really thank her a lot. That's a good, you're a good negotiator, all right. This is an issue that I think Matt and I were just talking about the other day, has been here since we had this kindergarten class. It started out as a large kindergarten class. And so I put together a little timeline here of kind of how it all transpired. As you see, actually in June we had students leave. So even with those students leaving, it still was a pretty big class. But it was still at that point decision to keep it at 4 sections. And then you can see from the end of June, the very beginning of the school year, we had, for some reason, we had a lot of second graders enrolled, 12. And then since the beginning of school, you can see we've had 12 more enrolled, just rolling in one at a time. And then you can see actually it was pretty quick. February, we had that last 3, and then one in early March, so those last 4 came right at the end of it. And then we got 4 leave. So the total is 20 students since the end of summer. So obviously that changed a lot of that class, what our plans were going into the school year, and then compared what transpired during the school year. And Lynn and everybody, we feel the same way, which is exactly why in our contract we have a mechanism to say that to protect class section sizes, that we address that. Obviously, if this had been something that had happened in a different timeline, the easy solution would have been to come together, and I'm guessing maybe just at the beginning of the year, we'd probably place a teacher in there. But we have talked about it literally since, I think, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but since September, and just like 4th grade. So we've actually had 2 grades and 2 class levels that we can keep an eye on the entire school
correct, it was August.
Well, it was in August, yeah. I mean, so we kind of had these numbers, and obviously that's a tough thing to predict. We know kids leave, we know kids come, and that's just the timeline of how things transpired. When we did hit that 4 sections of 30, you know, I knew that we were getting there, and when we first got to the 31st student, talked to Joel, got talking with the administrative team, we decided at this point in the school year, the best solution was to place an aide in there. So we did post, I think we got a great aide. She's right, you know, I'm really happy that we were able to get Kristen in there. At that point, sent a letter home explaining our situation, explaining that that we would just continue to keep an eye on it and continue to make a group administrative decision as it transpired. So we're kind of at that point, and just to kind of reiterate what I explained to parents, we just try to keep an eye on it and make a decision at each point. And I think even though they know that and they've received that letter, I appreciate their concern that they feel like what they're really telling us, there's a point to address a different solution from here on, and I agree with them. So just as a side note, we have a posting next year for a 5th grade, a 5th section of 3rd grade. Not that that's exactly what will transpire in terms of will the new person be placed in 3rd grade, but we're aware of that. It could be that our kindergarten, right now we have 5 sections. There will be a decision to make about whether that continues to be 5 sections. It also we have a decision to make about we will have enough kindergartners incoming to continue 5 sections. That will depend on those 2 factors will obviously dictate what our staff needs are as we enter the summer. But it's never easy, it's never perfect. You hate to say it, but obviously we're trying to be efficient with all of our resources and try to make the best educational decisions with all of those things in mind. So that's kind of the timeline of how that's all unfolded.
If I could just add, you know, the difficulty of this is twofold. It's the timing, and then the other side of it is that while we're experiencing this surge of 2nd graders, that's not a trend we're seeing district-wide. Our state aid status report last month, as opposed to the beginning of the year, was down 10 students. So, you know, it's you take your best guess at where everybody's going to land at the beginning of the year, and early at the very start of the year, you may have an opportunity to make some changes, but the further you get into it, the more difficult it becomes. So our February count hasn't been certified yet, and I'm cautiously optimistic that it may be better than what we're seeing on those state aid status reports. But overall, you all are aware that we've been experiencing not the steady drop that some of our neighbors have seen, but we're holding or slightly going down on students. So when these kids come, I'm always excited when a principal calls and tells me they enrolled another kid, but every time the phone rang and it was Andy, I cringe.
You know, and you look at just a subtlety like that, we certainly are aware that, I don't think any of us disagree that 30 children is too many. On the other hand, just with this little blip of 10 children and the possibility of adding another teacher next year, you know, it's a change of $150,000, $7,000 for the 10 that we don't have, and the you know, another 70 or so with hiring an additional teacher. It does, these little blips, you know, it's a shame that they don't, you know, it's sort of like how your family grows. It would be so nice if, you know, it'd be nice if one came every 4 years rather than all at the same time. But we love every one of them. We want to do the best for every one of them, and we'll attempt to do better. Keep our fingers crossed. We should know. The same is true for us as what we were talking about a while ago with kindergarten. By having better information earlier in the year, we may feel more confident on making decisions when they're practical. You know, the fact of the matter is, if we would call for another teacher right now, at this time of the year, no one would volunteer their child. They you know, it would be highly resisted because we all want the teacher that our children presently love to remain until the end of the year. So some of this has to be done early if it's going to be done at all. And we hope to have better information this year for making those decisions.
And Joel, I think that's exactly one of the points that when you talk about as an administrative team, it sounds easy to say, well, we just get a teacher and progress immediately continues from there, but transitioning that, bringing new students together, having a transition part, there's actually, you can make the argument, and I think it's true, that there'd be actually educational opportunity lost during that time. So it's a balancing act. As you said, it's never perfect, but it's clear that we have to head into next year with this information in mind and make that type of staff decision.
And we are, knowing full well that the board will be making, we're preparing as if we were going to add another class. But we have not, as you know, we haven't made that decision. The final decision will be the board's as always.
So, got a question, would you even have space over there for another class?
Yeah, we would, off the top of my head, we would collapse one of the portables usage. Right now, we have a mentoring portable and an art portable. Probably have one of those portables become a classroom for the rest of the year. Or we have some other services in the classroom. We might have a special needs classroom out there. There are a couple of things we can do. We have, we've done it before. I've watched Matt do it at Madison overnight. I'm sure if we had to, we could transfer the classroom space. But we're getting tight.
Do those other classes that have the 30s have an aid, or?
No, not at this point.
I want to remind everyone, as a board, we did make a mandate with respect to, at the elementary level, cutoff lines of 30 and below. Again, that being said, it was thought, do we add another teacher at this point? But because of reasons that Andy mentioned and Joel mentioned, not a very feasible thing with respect to doing what's best for the kids. And so the decision was made to keep them in the same environment with a teacher who understands where they're at, and understands the programs that are underway and can continue with them, and then add an aide to help out. So it is kind of a stopgap measure, realistically. I'd hope that we would be looking, if the numbers stay the same, and they probably will, next year, we need another class section for this. That is not going to continue. I have to say that, any other comments?
Seems like a lot of kids from the first of the year on. Seems kind of odd to have that.
Yeah, I mean, like.
That's not normal, is it?
Well, I think overall, we're growing in that building. We had a couple of sections, but whenever we get new kids, it's usually very sporadic with what grade level. We just kept, every time a kid came, it was a second grader. So, we must have a couple of cute girls in there that everybody wants to date.
The only other thing to say is, at the beginning of the school year, when we looked at second grade, we did realize class numbers were high, and it was close. We did debate about it. We did make the decision. That is our responsibility. We didn't think there was going to be that many kids coming in at all. We have to plan ahead, use the data, and I like what we're doing with gathering data, getting information. Any other comments? If not, let's move on.
As long as I'm up here, Paul, do you
Yes,
mind
sir.
if I take 1 second? I just
Yes.
want to introduce somebody in the audience. And I can tell she knew she was going to be introduced because she dressed up for us today. I'm going to embarrass her as much as I can. She's doing such a great job. She was a student teacher at Madison earlier this year. Now she's placed with Head Boys class. This is Karen Brown from Onekla, and we're really happy to have her at Jefferson, and the students in Miss Boyd's class really love her. And I know Kim Fisher had her, and she's not.
And now I'm upset about her being over there, but we're trying to move on. My kids really, really, really miss her. I think a lot of the children in the building do. She was awesome. Yeah.
She's an excellent.
Thank you. Moving on to MISD.
Yes, with us tonight from our ISD is Kim Reinhardt. Kim? So nice of you to come. We put
Thanks
you
for
off for
having
so
me.
long.
Yeah, thank
But,
you. I'm Kim Reinhardt. I work in the general ed department at the ISD. Little handout here for you that just tells about our services. Every year we try to visit each local board and just give you an update about what we're working on, the services we provide. So just take a minute, I'll let you read through this on your own, and then I just like to highlight a couple things. I won't take a lot of your time. Had a chance just to glance it over to start. This is just a document that shows you how our department is broken down. In the purple boxes there, you see we have 3 staff members, consultants. We have myself. Dency Lippert is contracted. She's not a full-time ISD employee, but she's a retired teacher and she used to work for MAPS. She works for us. She's retired, but she's still with us pretty much full-time. And Kay Sellier is our general ed director. And we do share some services with Wexford Misaki ISD. You can see the list right there. That's been a nice trade for us. And then Lucy Gagstetter is our secretary that provides some services. This is double-sided, so if you flip it over, you can see the purple boxes continue with what we provide, and then some information in the orange boxes there too. So I'm not going to list out everything that we do at the ISD in the general ed department, but just a couple highlights. For MAPS specifically, we've been doing some professional development on mindset and on formative assessment with some existing formative assessment teams that you have. And another example, just things special for MAPS this Friday, Dency and myself and our shared math consultant, Jody Redmond, we're going to come in and do some professional development on the upcoming NSTEP assessment. So we're going to be meeting with your 3rd through 8th grade teachers to help kind of get them ready for that. So we do PD specifically for MAPS when it's requested, and then we also provide PD at the ISD for the whole county. So some examples of that you have really nice participation with. We have a new teacher workshop series that Dency provides, and I know you have nice representation there, and they are actually meeting tonight. We have quarterly subject area network groups that meet for science, social studies, math, and language arts, and our science group met tonight. And involving administration, the principals and the superintendents, right now we are in the middle of an evaluation tool project where we're pulling together principals and superintendents from the county to look at a new evaluation tool. And we also are really happy to support some student events for students around the county. We have a math counts program for middle school students. Honors band, you know, that just happened last night, and Nancy Middle and High was the host of that. So thank you for hosting that. It's a nice service for the county. We have Young Authors Day. That was last week for the elementary students. And coming up next month, we have an elementary science Olympiad for the county. And that's actually going to be right here at Kennedy. So thank you for hosting that too. So you've had a chance to kind of look over the document. I've given you a little bit of information. What questions might you have for me?
Any new programs anticipated within the next 3 years, and comment on the funding available to provide us with continued programs?
Are you speaking about professional development or
Both.
both?
Yeah, professional development and projects, programs for the kids.
And student services, okay. I believe the student services programs will remain the same. I've been here for about 10 years, and we've had the same student programs all along. Most of those are funded through grants that continue to be renewed. So those will probably stay the same. And our professional development funding, right now it looks like that's going to maintain. We're going to be able to keep Dency on. So it will be the 3 of us in our shared services with Wexford Misaki. Our goal right now, looking ahead, is to keep teachers and administration up with the new Michigan standards with Common Core and new standards coming up, and the changes in assessment.
Any other concerns?
Anything else? No? Okay.
Just our continued thanks for assisting us in our day-to-day work. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure. And your teachers are very, very active. We see them at all of our events, and they're just great to work with. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
All right. Moving on to the alternate school pilot program.
Well, I know that we started with the board's permission in January, we started another avenue of assistance for some of our most troubled students. Thought it was, and of course, for it to be continued, if you'll recall, we started it as pilot. We thought it was best for you to give you maybe a mid-semester or halfway through analysis, and with that tonight, I see that we have two staff members here. Hello, Coach. Always a pleasure to see you. And Julie Grad, so the floor is yours.
Well, the board did ask us to give them an update, which is loading. I know we said we would start small at 12, but we have added students in need as they've come to our district, and sorry, I added another one today, Todd. So we have great attendance, we have wonderful volunteers. Our students are earning credits, which is really the whole goal, is to keep them in school and to have them graduate with a diploma. And 100% of our students are paired with a Rotary mentor. Rotary was here earlier. They get us people in the community, and Todd arranges fun things for them to do, and they learn about career readiness and what it takes to be ready for a job after graduation. So this is some of the background on paper of the pilot program, but I think the best part of the pilot program is our staff and our students. So.
Take a minute. Eileen is one of our students here, one of the STAR pupils. So if you have any questions for Eileen afterward, that's why I dragged her here. So, just looking at this, I don't feel well at all, so I'm not gonna be windy like I usually am. So, Tom, don't worry. All right. It pretty much speaks for itself. We're having a great success at the church. The church has been a great partner for us. They're providing people to help on a regular basis that are there. They're just good people. Everything is going exceptionally well there. Couldn't have asked for a better arrangement. I don't think the students could ask for anything any better for that, for our situation. It's got a gym for our breaks, anything I need, they help us with. And they're not asking for anything in return. They're not asking for one thing, which has been really nice. The students paired with the Rotary, I just want to make sure we still are in need of volunteers. I'm just using that avenue to take care of all these students, make sure they all get to do the same types of things we do. We do a variety of types of things. I think I told you before, we toured the Ramsdale, we took them to TJ's, get it out. We actually had our fun time. We went bowling, yes. Here's our star, she won. She had the most strikes, so. And then we help with the local businesses. We went to the bungalow afterward. They're gracious and offer $10 and under meals for all of our kids, no matter what's on the menu. So everywhere we've been, we partner. Stacy Whiteworth is basically she does all the legwork. Okay, I can't even tell you, she's a chamber person. So if you see her, she really organizes and sets up everything. We want to go to Ferris on the end of April. We're setting that up right now. A variety of things. Matt's wife has volunteered to get us tickets to the baseball in Traverse City, so I think we're going to take a trip up to that venue. The Clear Blue, I was talking about going to the baseball, and she was happy to get the Rotary and said, "I get you tickets." I said, "Take them." We're good for that. So just a lot of good things happening. I will tell you that we use Novanet. You'll hear a sales pitch no matter what. I might as well let you know that right now. When I started alternative ed, and when I started as an alternative ed teacher in Plainwell, Eileen may not want to hear all this. She's not going to be happy with me here. But once you get the students motivated to work, what we have is a base program. We need to get more. There's other types of things that are more student-oriented and student-led, better than you can ever imagine. And we're looking at a couple programs that we instituted there. The cost is not going to be hardly anything more. I think it's about the same. We've already talked to people and twisted their arm as far as that. It's just better for our kids, and it's better whether we run a pilot program, whether we run it, but these guys are exceeding. I mean, what was happening before with credit recovery and attempting, and then all of that, they're just taking off and flying. And that happened before, hardest thing is getting them in the setting where they want to be and where they want to actually feel part of the school system and welcome, so. Would you like to say anything?
This program is really good for me too. It helps me work at my own pace, and I can, like, what I do is I just work as much as I can, like, that's what I put my everything to, like, all my time, my free time, since I don't have a job or anything. So, like, if I finish, like, at least 4 post-tests today, and, like, I stay up as long as it takes to, like, get it done. And when they told me it's possibility for me to graduate, is when I was like, all right, I got this, and I just started working as much as I can on it. It's a really great program.
And she doesn't know I peeked because she knows I figured out how to do all the Novant stuff last week because I was over there and I had done it before, but they have the 4 days where they're 8 to 11, and it's the seat time, and they can work on their own at the other types of, at their pace. That's 12 hours. One week I saw Eileen was on there 52 hours or something, okay? All right, just so, sorry Eileen, I did look at it and see that, so.
Yeah,
And I'm her mother, and I can agree with him. Me and her father divorced about 4 years ago, and she went to live with him in Texas her freshman year. And then she was having a hard time with her father down there. I had to go pick her up because she was skipping school. She had no credits when I brought her up here. Her second freshman year up here, she had a lot of trouble. She wasn't into school at all. She didn't want to do anything. Since she's been doing this program, I've seen her motivated, and like he said, 52 hours she gets home. I had to beg her. Sometimes I even had to bribe her to do her homework. Now I have to bribe her to get off the computer and not do homework. And I see her motivated. She's doing what she has to do. She wants to graduate. When she was a little girl, she wanted to be a veterinarian, and I thought that maybe she would want to go back to being that, but there was a period of time that she lost motivation in everything. She doesn't want to be a veterinarian anymore, but at least she has a goal. She wants to be a cosmetologist now, and she already looked into schoolings after she graduates. So I am really, really appreciative of this program, and I don't know what Mr. Miller and Ms. Cotton are doing, but with her, I can see that she's really motivated with this program, and she wants to do something with her life now. And that's something that I couldn't give to her, and I didn't see her father give it to her either. So I really appreciate this program because she is going somewhere now.
Really a true story of success. You gotta remember, anything is possible.
On the Novanet end of it, I know, personally know kids that wouldn't have graduated without Novanet. I can't tell you how important that is.
Got the budget done and left feeling very unsatisfied that I didn't feel more confident about it. While on vacation, I got an email from my professional organization, and it was titled 147 Guidance. And I thought, hallelujah, here we go. Finally, I'll get the, from the experts how to do this. And I won't bore you with this, but I just have to tell you a few of the highlights of this thing. We have not seen guidance. More to come. So what should you do? Good question. Don't panic. Districts will likely need to revise their budgets. More guidance will be passed on when available.
So,
Nice, that's comforting.
You got some good help there.
yeah. So we're gonna really watch that, but if I saw any pitfall in our budget, it's stuff that's gonna get lost in shuffling this 147 money around. But we're gonna, you know, keep on top of it. But like I said, it's not like it's a $50,000 or something. There's $800,000 that if it went into one revenue line and into one expenditure line, it would be easy. But we distribute the expense across the entire chart of accounts. So it just lends itself to a situation that makes me nervous. So we're going to continue to watch that. But on the budget amendments that you have before you, there's just two funds that we're proposing to amend tonight. I'm going to do the smaller one first. We're going to open a capital projects fund. This is something that you already authorized. It was part of the resolution when we did the borrowing for the Apple. But we should adopt this budget just so we have it in a consistent format with our other budgets. So there's just a budget that shows we borrowed the money and we spent the money. That's that capital projects fund. On the general fund, if you, which is the page with a lot more numbers, and I always try to include some historical perspective. So we've got actuals back to 2008, 2009, and then we're up to this proposed amendment. And you'll see that on the local side, the money that we're kind of responsible for, taxes, not much adjustment proposed there, about $2,000. The PILT payment, we know the PILT payment was less than it's been in the past, but we had anticipated most of that, so we're just decreasing the budget by $800. On the state side, you start to see some significant adjustments, and they're compounded because there's multiple things happening there. State aid actually went down slightly, but I want to explain that because it's really twofold. We actually, state aid coming to the district appears to be, at this time, a little bit more than what we had budgeted. But at the same time, we got clarification on the 10.2 bulletin that the money that we get from the Great Lakes Virtual Academy, you know, the charter money that we're getting, should be accounted for down in the 500. So you'll see that that 500 number, the incoming transfers, got a lot larger. So just know that the state aid went up, and then we took that money out of there. There's two things happening in state aid. Federal revenues were a little bit more than anticipated. And then, as I mentioned, we put the charter school money down into the incoming transfers, and that's also where we account for the sale of fixed assets. So the sale of Kennedy, I've added that as a budgeted, you know, I've added that revenue in. On the expenditure side, there's a few areas that I just want to point out, and there's been a lot of movement here and there, but you'll remember a lot of it was that we, after the charter school revenue was looking better than anticipated, we decided to give back staff a portion of the money that they had given us in concessions, so we had some budget increases there. The 147 stuff adjusted all those numbers. When you look at specific functions, special ed, right now we've seen a big increase in special ed. We had originally budgeted $895,000, we're up to $1,066,000 in that area. Down in the 132 functions, an increase there that we all knew we were going to experience this year due to the transition to a different superintendent. So we have a budget increase there. And then operations and maintenance, also anticipating we need to put some more money there. And what I'll tell you there is we're just trying to do a lot better job of keeping up on repairs and fixing things in a timely basis. So we've got a little catch-up period. And we went through that with the Honeywell project where we got caught up, but you know, we've had some things break that in prior years we probably would have tried to let them just stay broke for a little while. But at the end of the day, the analysis is always that you paid more or the same as you would have paid had you fixed it immediately, and then you lost the use of the benefit of it. The students don't have the comfort if it's heat or, so we're spending a little bit more money in that area. As I said, this 147 is gonna cause us to really keep an eye on budget.
when I went down to the conference in January, I spoke with some of my peers from other districts, and they had kind of gotten burned last year when the 147 money first started. In that when the auditor came, they had moved the allocations around, and then it caused them to be over budget in some functions. We avoided that, and we want to avoid it again this year. But more importantly, we want to make sure we have the total right. So that's what we're chasing around. So this budget shows revenues of $14,721,000, expenditures of $14,736,000. Anticipates a deficit of about $15,000. As you know, every year we generally run about $150,000 favorable variance. So if all things were as they've been in the past, we'd probably look at ending the year with a little bit of money in the bank, going into fund equity. But again, I just feel the need to share with you this is not a typical year. So we're gonna pay closer attention to this, and it's the retirement in particular, to make sure we're not missing the boat there. But we would end the year with a fund balance of $501,000. Important to note that that's our total fund balance, both assigned and unassigned. So the assignment, the funds for the track, that's included in this 500. So we just need to, I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. So that's the budget as with the best information we had at the end of the month, and I'm hoping for some guidance from the state of Michigan, and we're going to continue to just crunch numbers on our side to make sure we're not missing something. It's just it just seems to me it really presents a situation where something could go wrong. This 147 and how it's being accounted for, so we're going to pay close attention to it.
So Howard, on that, the difference between our adopted and the amended, with that fund balance?
Yes.
Those are apples to apples.
Apples to apples on the revenue over expenditures. The difference is the beginning fund balance. When we adopted the first budget, we didn't know what our ending fund balance would be, so you see we carried forward $384,000. Now we know what we ended up with, and we carried into the 516.
So then the ending is still, those numbers equate that there's the same things are included?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
What is our unassigned fund balance?
Well, of and I'm going to speak from memory, which is always dangerous, and it seems like it gets more dangerous every day for me. But about $517,000 is our total. And so far, the only thing that we have assigned has been the sale of the school forest tree cutting that we set aside, and I think $50,000 maybe in there.
50, 55.
Okay, maybe there was two payments, so I might be not thinking of the first, but that's it. It's in the course of the audit, they may set aside a few bucks for inventory items or something. I don't recall. I could pull the audit and take a look, but it's somewhere in that. I just feel comfortable saying that somewhere between $50,000 and $65,000 assigned.
Any comments?
I can't help it. We continue, we are not out of the woods financially, okay? And I know that our exuberance and our impatience about not doing things the way they should, and the things we want to do for children far exceeds our ability to do them all, or even some of them, when we continue to be funded by the state to a point that cannot sustain what we have. And it's just not coming. And in spite of what you may hear, I'm still awaiting. It's been 2008 since we've seen an increase in our foundation grant. And I don't know, you know, the other thing I'll point out there, when we saw the governor originally had proposed a step in the right direction, $75 increase for us. If we round that off and multiply it by our 1,500 youngsters, it would barely cover the slight blip that we were talking about earlier losing 10 kids and wanting to add another teacher. That's how small the increase we're talking about. And by the way, it's no longer being talked about. It's been withdrawn. And the new maybe is the ballot proposal on May 5th. And the latest on that is you'll notice that originally it was referred to as $200 per youngster. That language has carefully been changed because the governor's office wants to reserve the right to decide how that money will be spent, which probably is not on general revenue. So we could easily face another year in a long line of years where we have no increase from the state and less children. And the less children really hurts us. You know, we lose more than $7,000, about 74, I think, isn't it? Every time we have one less child, that's a negative 7,004, as compared to maybe what, a firm maybe of maybe 75. We lose it at 10 times the rate that we might get it, and we haven't gotten the might getting it. So, you know, it's very incumbent on us to recognize that you have been we've been such frugal people here for so long that our programs in our school doesn't look like we're as poverty stricken as some of our neighbors, when in fact we share the same finances. We remain very, very close to the vest, and they have encumbered our dreams for our children, just like everywhere else. So, okay, I feel better.
So, it is up to ourselves. We can't count on the state.
Exactly.
It is up to us to keep on pursuing alternative sources of
Well
revenue,
said.
which we've done. And the only reason I think we have a lot of what we have still, and we haven't had to make a lot of cuts, we have made some critical cuts, but is because of the alternative revenue. And we need to always be on the lookout for other sources too.
I think it's imperative for us to key in on that, and hoping that the state gets money, because we're probably not gonna get that.
Well said. You know, we've done other things too. We've collapsed our staff and turned our staff over to where the average pay for our staff is less because we have younger teachers, who in Michigan traditionally, you know, the gist in Michigan forever has been you work 10 or 15 years and your salary is doubled. Well, through the steps, you know, which has helped us out, has bought us some time, but I see no indication from Lansing that the new Michigan thinks that paying more for painting schools is a good idea. I'm very interested to see how our own representative, Mr. France, who has rented our auditorium April 8th and is going to have a speech on how he handles the ballot initiative. And you'll notice that the ballot initiative is the only way that we're ever going to see any money this year is if it passes. I'm talking about Michigan schools. And it'll be interesting to see whether it's this or that. Somehow I think I already know.
You'll have to show up to see.
I will.
To say that as a board meeting.
Howard, what do you need from us?
Under the action items, there's a request, if you feel comfortable, to approve this amendment and also the capital projects budgets. And,
That's right, I got it.
And then we'll continue to monitor, and there'll be more amendments this year, no doubt.
Do we have any other debate about that? Okay, if not, let's move on. Anything from our leadership team specifically? I know we've got our data review.
Yeah, we'll have our data review and just let's go into that.
Okay.
We've got our recent stuff. Mrs. Raditz, Ms. Raditz, we'll start with you.
You have the IAP from the fourth IAP that we took this year. I know each building has some things that they're working on based on the feedback of our students. But really what's most exciting is, well, the high school just had ACT tests last week, and it reminded me of before the IAP, how we used to have to wait a year to get information about how our students are doing. And to be getting information every 6 weeks is very exciting. Yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Sure, I also want to add that last week we had our on-site review from the Department of Ed. And one of the questions we asked them, because these three gentlemen that were here, they cover from US 10.
Let's back up for a minute and remind the board that we're talking about a review that we have because of the fact that we are a focus school, and we have to have plans on, would you describe that process, Kevin, for us? Why we're in this conundrum of being a focus school?
That's me.
Okay.
Kevin is talking about Title I.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
For Title I, it was our 5-year audit, so we're on the
Right.
books for our
Okay.
5-year audit, so they were here last week for a couple days. Kind of going
2
through
full
everything.
days.
Yeah, going through like everything we do with the fine tooth comb, interviewing staff, at all
And our
levels.
total budget on title is $400,000. Yeah, $400,000. To give you an analysis, when I was at Mason Eastern, that has a fraction of the students that we have here, we received $800,000. So $400,000 from the federal government out of a $14 million budget that you just heard, we adapted. So you can get an idea of the amount of money, the amount of programs that, it gives you a grip of the size of what we're talking. Excuse me. Yeah, go ahead.
So, regarding the IAP, we were asking them, these three gentlemen who cover from US 10 all the way across to Ironwood. I said, what other schools are doing the kind of programming that we're doing? And he said, well, based on the level of analysis you're getting, by each individual standard, each individual kid on top of that, there's not another school that we're looking at as doing anything like this. You guys are on top of this, your results. I just wish we could have one more year of meat testing so we could see how great your kids are on the same kind of assessment. We're not going to be able to compare apples to apples coming up here on the MSTEP, but they were very, very impressed with what we're doing and the results that we're getting.
Yeah, when we first came to you about the IEP last year, we kind of gave you the analogy of how would you prepare until you got the information, it's too late. So if you think about it, last year at this time, we were preparing the school improvement plan for this year based on information from last year. And that's what most schools find themselves doing. And it's just because there is no other information you can really look at. And it was really validating to hear that MDE, and I asked, I said, well, for our school, we don't have a lot of information for social studies and for science. And he said, well, just use your IEP. He said, the MEP was never designed and never intended to have schools guide their school improvement plans. So it was just nice of him to hear, because that's exactly what we're talking about. So what we're going to talk about this spring, to try to improve students' performance for next year, is going to be based on the information that we're seeing right now. So next year, Jefferson's math goal, Jefferson's writing, Jefferson's reading goals will be based on the information that we've seen of all of our students performing on our own IEP and not the MEP from last year when it's too late. So they love that. It's good for us to hear that they feel like we're on the right track. And it's exciting. It's a different way of doing things, and I really believe that teachers, when they see that that's why we're making our plans and our activities based on those plans, they'll be more part of that, because they're the ones who provide this information that make these plans and these goals. So ownership is key to that.
Any questions, comments?
Just are you, it's easy to share successes as a group. It's more difficult to change a culture where you identify where something went south on you, and you're looking for answers. Are you sensing that your teams are as quick to share their frustrations through this process as well as their successes? Can you tell me something about that?
I'll tell you that. I think the main thing is the opposite. They're more apt to talk about what went wrong. They look at the successes, and that's nice to hear, but it's gone. They want to talk about what went wrong. And the biggest tie to me is, we have this process where they predict how students will do on an answer. And then if students don't do well on that, they want to talk about how could we have known that earlier? How could we have gotten information?
That's what we need. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear right there. That we're changing our culture and the way that we're doing things. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
We're also putting an evaluation committee together to look back over the first year and see what went well, what didn't go so well, and how we move forward.
But of course, we don't have to wait to the year end to be able to discover this, which is why the IEP, yeah.
Takes you a while.
It does, yeah. It took, well, that first grade for me was an awfully long 4 years.
Are you gonna take the IEP into consideration for classroom placement next year, so you have balanced classes?
I would assume part of the whole big picture was one piece of the puzzle, is how we get some balanced classes. Just like kindergarten, trying to get as much information, we do the same thing, and
Okay, so that is in your plan.
I think that's just a natural course of when students consider how students perform in the class. At least at the elementary level, the IEP is a big part of that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Moving on then, policy review. Any comments about that?
We had our second read of 5350 through 5500. If there are no corrections or suggestions, we don't have to have a motion to accept that. We can just accept it.
All right. I have,
If you have a question?
I got a comment, and
That's on the next.
oh, okay, excuse me.
All right. How about on the first read of 5510 through 5520? Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Well, the anti-harassment, this is good stuff. There are some things here as far as the school district community. And you'll see down there that you guys are included in the school district community right along with everyone else. And I think it's important for when we come down to reporting over here, the anti-harassment compliance officers. The question is, it's tough sometimes to have someone in my position, for example, if I'm violating any of the procedures that were the harassment contact, the reporting agencies, i.e. in this case for the district, it's Matt and Julia, would be beneath, they are my subordinates. And so the question arises at the very top for the superintendent as well as you as board people. I think it's, we need to be clear in terms of if there's harassment, how that is to be handled. And Paul, I saw and shared some of your concerns, which I could not agree with more, that if I am the person that's doing harassing, to report it to someone who's obviously in a subordinate position to the superintendent, puts undue pressure on that person, and I think it would be wise for us to direct a person to report it to the board president at that time. And the same thing if any of us in our duties were, if our duties were questioned or someone wanted to file a complaint, I think the very same thing is true, that whether our two principals or the two people that are mentioned here, whether you're higher on, whether you're a subordinate to them or not, I think most people would consider you higher on the scale, and that we should just be clean and use the same circumstances where if a community, a member of our school community is accusing us of this, then here's where it should be reported.
Did you have any other specific wording?
As a matter of fact, I do. And I would say that in the event that the unlawful harassment involves the superintendent, the board president, shall be made excuse me, I can't even read my own writing. Give me a second. The complaint shall be made to the board president, and in the case it involves the president himself, and the complaint shall be made to the vice president of the board. So if the person,
Superintendent and a board member, it goes to the Board of Education.
in our case this year, it would be you. And then, but if it's you, or excuse me, not you, but the person who is the board president, be the vice president. The report would be.
And the goal is to make this clear, the goal is to make it less confusing and not set up any roadblocks to make this to be able to happen if there is an issue. That's the key. Any thoughts about that, any change in the wording?
I got a question on that, and it's probably more for one of the principals, because we talk about the names, Matt and Julia. Contact information of these individuals we publish annually in the parent and staff handbooks and in the school district website. Do we put that up any place for, you know, just the, I'm thinking of the students that this is going on, not against something else, but who they could,
I believe it's in the handbook.
But I mean, is that, it's on the website? Is it readily available for kids? The student handbook's on the website.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I think.
Harassment,
Pardon me?
Some kind of harassment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually have especially at elementary, it's one of the first things we do in the school year. Let's talk about the process and how we go about reporting it, everything. Stop, talk, and walk, you know, and that third step is to contact an adult. So it's something to talk about a lot.
Okay.
There was another thing that I must confess about, and that is we have a policy, a very good one, concerning teenage suicide that I don't think we're following. And I'll make that my mission to find out and come back. But according to our policy, there is to be instruction to the teachers concerning the signs to look for in teenage depression, and our obligations to report that to our appropriate people if we fear that that's the case.
If you don't mind me entering something, some of your counties, and you need to research this county, Muskegon, Grand Rapids, Kent County, all those counties are beginning to offer mental health first aid, which is free to the school. They'll come in and they'll do trainings surrounding those particular topics. And several school districts have decided to send their teams to that training, and it's very worthwhile. So I'm not sure what's happening in Manistee County, but a lot of those counties are moving towards that. And I believe they've signified that they've assigned somebody in the mental health ranks in the team to do that.
I think there's a hole, District 1.
No, we talked about that in the last
You
meeting.
did?
Yeah, we did.
So, and that is in the first, is that in the first read or the second?
That would be the second.
Second.
Right.
The second, the 5350 through
And
55.
early.
Okay, so we're not going to approve, I would suggest to the board that we don't approve that, we get some more information about what we're doing, what
Well, I think we're finally ready to vote on that later in the meeting. But the Kennedy property descriptions is sort of turned into the continuing saga. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff, but there's a few twists and turns that we need to discuss in the closed session tonight.
So we'll go on to that. Then teaching postings.
As you saw, and I think we referred to earlier, we're actually posting some anticipated openings, not for sure openings.
And if nothing else, then how about the Jefferson Music Program?
You know, I think that we had a letter from a young woman who has an elementary, Mrs. Warch, that I included in your packet, and along with my response to her. And we have had, just the other day, I think you might have seen a wonderful letter to the editor that was in the paper concerning support for elementary music, or music in general, and elementary music in particular. And I would also say that Mr. Huber and I have had several conversations concerning that topic, as well as the administrative team in general. All favorable. You know, I don't know of anyone who would. I don't know of anyone that doesn't. I don't know of anyone that doesn't like to play basketball, regardless of their skill level. And I don't know anyone that doesn't like to sing, regardless of their skill level.
Are you a good singer?
True.
No one
True.
wants to hear you.
Yeah,
Great
don't-
whistler.
Don't get me started. You'll regret it, believe me. But, and I'm serious, that we all bemoan the state that we're in. We all feel that we're diminished. My own children were very active in vocal music at a school that was very musical, Koski High School, and got all kinds of accolades and scholarships for participating in it. But you know, we're stuck with, and we may have some ideas for you to consider. As a matter of fact, this isn't the only idea, because I don't want our dreams to be stifled. You know, the easiest thing in the world to say to end an argument is, can't afford it, you know, can't afford it. We should be able to have discussions about where we want our curriculum to go that aren't limited by money. You know, even if in fact they are limited by money, we should still have discussions and have a way and a rational process of deciding what it is we wish to do. And there are many people who share Mrs. Warch's feelings that the elementary school in particular, or the high school, here we are, Class D high school. I don't know, I don't see Ms. Raditz down there. Maybe somebody on the administrative team can help. Do you know any Class B schools that don't have a choir? Not me. Yeah, you know, I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that occurred. I don't even know in the gist of things is it necessary. But I do know that there's a lot of people who strongly feel that our students are being diminished by their lack of musical experience. And we are going to bring forward for you to consider things that we think as an administrative team are lacking, so that when we start doing our narrowing, we can, because our dreams always far exceed our ability to realize all at once, that we can talk about this. But I think a discussion on this thing is necessary, and we do have proponents on the administrative team that wish to have our musical experiences for children increased. So, and I got to put myself on that side of the aisle.
Thank you, Joel. Any comments from the board?
least on the elementary level, what it would cost, if you get a part-time music teacher to come in and help. You know, I don't know what kind of research you had planned or what kind of investigation you had planned.
And where does that affect the curriculum, you know, as far as their?
Yeah, and it's hard, you know, and part of it, it isn't all money. What some of it is that as the state insists that we have, every youngster's going to have 4 years of English and math and all these classes, when they become required classes, there's less and less electives for students to be able to choose.
For high school though.
Right.
That's right,
And
that's right.
I think what this letter was talking about, if I'm right,
You're
was
right.
about elementary. Now, if you wanna talk about it as well for high school, look at our wood shop. That
Same
went away
thing.
Partly
Same
because
thing.
kids don't have the choices they used to have.
That's true. Very true.
Because of the state.
But it'd be interesting to see options for at least elementary, what are options that we can have out there.
Okay.
There may be some grants through arts, you know, arts grants.
Well, if,
Alternative revenue, again, that's my catchphrase, but.
well, and the flip side is, there's lots of Class C schools that don't, but not very many Class B. And as we get smaller, because we're still not, you know, the slope is still one going down. Not like this yet, you know, sort of like this. It becomes harder to do those things. But, well, yes ma'am and yes sir, we hear what your wish is, and we will have more for you to consider as the business of crafting our budget for next year begins.
And just real quick, the point you were making with the high school does still apply to elementary. There's only a finite amount of time to accomplish specific goals to do that. And so, you know, how do the teachers fit in a special segment on music and singing? That's what has to be decided on. And I know we have music instruction included in the curriculum. And I guess I'd like to hear, you know, when we come back, you know, what we're doing right now. Is it working? You know, is it not? And if we can do any more with it, that'd be great.
Speaking from experience, like with state regulations, I've had we're signing up for senior classes this year or previously, and I haven't had my art class, because you have to graduate with 1 art credit. And with all the math and English and science and everything that you have to do, the foreign language, I've pushed back the art to this past year, and we have like limited, I mean, you can either do art, cooking, or yearbook that would get your art elective, and I think the fire would need that. If it's of interest. But great.
But you're feeling this
Right.
pinch there too. Thank you. Moving on to superintendent search update then.
Well, you'll see that Mr. Crosby has a listing of the people that have so far filled out applications for our superintendent, and it's looking pretty good. We still have time to go, and I will tell you that superintendent applicants are just like seniors in high school in one regard. They wait till the last minute to do their homework. So I anticipate that we'll be receiving more applications as we get closer to April 4th, which is our cutoff date. But so far, so good. So far, so good, and I continue to get phone calls weekly from people that are interested in the job, as does ML Lyons.
Thank you, Joe. Any concerns about that? Coaches roster?
Yeah, there she is, we're ready to go. I think the young men we heard earlier are somehow affiliated with the MAPS team. It's started spring practice. Go Chips. And of course, the other thing down here, the overnight request for the swimming, what a nice one for me to approve. And I thought, well, maybe I should tell you that I think our girls' basketball team should have an overnight request, because they certainly are not going to arrive home after their 5-hour best trip up to Sault Ste. Marie, my old hunting grounds, and back in the same night before dark 30 in the morning. But Go Chips again, we're anxiously, it's not often we get a chance to play a team from in the central time zone like we do with these people. And I want you to know, if it's any consolation, I think it's farther to get to Holton to the Sioux than it is from Manistee to the Sioux. So hopefully, what are they called anyways? The Huskies, Holton Huskies? What are they? Gremlins. Gremlins? Gremlins, huh? I'm anxious to see what that looks like. Yeah.
We're hoping it's like the car.
Well said. Well said, Jason.
It'd be like car.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Joel. Let's go ahead and move on to some old business. Master Plan Work Group update. Nick, it is good to have you back.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll hide behind the camera.
Let's see. I really have to address something that just came up a minute ago before I get into this. I really urge you folks to really look at that mental health first aid. I had a stark issue that happened today. One of my counselors in one of the districts I serve actually went to a robotics event this past weekend, and she, based on her training, noticed something with the student that just wasn't right. I can't get into details, but I think she made a huge difference in that kid's life, if you know what I mean. So I really urge you folks to be looking at that. I'm listening to the board presentation, and as I was listening, I'm chopping away at my presentation, you know, in terms of some of the things that are going on. I actually want to start backwards. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to walk through a vision situation, and then I'm going to provide a recommendation. I'm going to ask you folks for something before we cover some of the materials here. First of all, how many people remember their days, whether it's in college or high school, that you had to write that huge paper? You know, how many people? Just raise your hands. You guys remember those days? Okay. Painful, wasn't it? Well, we're in that process right now with this stuff, is because we're dealing with a lot of research information and a lot of programs. What we're, Joe and I have spent some time together. We've met, we've had some committees going. We met with some individuals, whether it was at the house or at a restaurant. And so we've been working this situation. Kind of reminds you that, Kenny, what's that period in July that it's real quiet? What's that called?
That period?
Well, we're kind of in that period, okay? So I want you to visualize that. So there's a lot of homework that's being done because, again, we want to provide the board a ton of information and a ton of options as we move forward on the project. And so, so again, that's real important to look at. The recommendation, or what I'm going to ask you for, is I want you to look at your June schedule. And I think you need to have a workshop surrounding the long-range planning. So we can focus on that. It's getting close to that period of time. You know, we're moving forward on the track situation. And then also, as we talked about that long-range planning, I want to remind you that you're a huge economic developer in this city, in this county. And when Joel talks about the bottom line is the kids that are in the seats will allow you to make differences in terms of your budget, in terms of those options, in terms of the programs that you take on your kids. And we're talking about music, lacking in music. We're talking about lacking, we don't have a track. You know, we have that, we don't have lists. And again, the bottom line is being an attractive location to pull things in. I urge the board to take some time, get on the internet, and search in the area of organizational development. And look at two things. If you have an organization that's doing maintenance, you're going to be cutting them down, period. That's just the way it is. If you're an organization that's growing and looking for new things, and looking at unique ways, I think Doc mentioned, alternatives to funding, then you're growing. And you're going to find that you're going to be able to provide those types of things to the kids that are missing right now. There's a lot of history out there. You look at some of the school districts. When we talk about the park situation, the school park, that's another thing I'm gonna urge you to get on the internet and start looking at it. I've looked at about 15 different projects that are out there in this country, like Texas and all the way across. There's some in Michigan that we've developed. What we talked about is that collaborative between municipalities where it's school to park situation, where the school actually becomes part of the park system. And that's basically what we're talking about. Before you, I just snuck this into Nancy, so I'm gonna reference that sheet right here. It's kind of a memo to you folks. And as you know, there's been meetings that are going on, okay? A lot of that is getting information and developing collaboratives and developing relationships. And we've done that for the past 3 months. You folks have been privy to that. I want to talk about Ken Blakey Shell for a second. We'll pick on him. This young man's done a lot of work with us in regards to, he's your ambassador to the Trailway Group. As you know, Ken's been heavily involved in some of the projects around the county. And so we're leaning on him to kind of get us in that group. And again, as we talk about the Trailway development in the next couple rounds of meetings, you'll begin to see that larger economic development picture. So basically, if you look at what I put down, we're doing a lot of homework, and what we'd like to do is start shipping you proposals so it's in writing so you can see some of the options and then also some of the examples. We're also on a verge, I'm gonna have several meetings that we'd like to get your blessing eventually on a 90-day fundraising project that will encompass the city, it will encompass all your partners, it will encompass families, it will encompass hopefully agencies and those types of things. Joe and I met with Nick Collison, who many of you know him from downtown, and he's gonna be one of the people that's spearheading that project, and that'll be done with our MAPS people in regards to fundraising for that. As you know, the biggest thing right now, before we start loading all this information towards you, and Joe's been heavily working on this, is the placement of the track, is the budget for the track, and the various options. We've met with several groups, and he's kept you informed on that. Once that is solidified in terms of where the best spot to place this track, then we can move forward on some of the master planning in relationship to the track. And I know he's presented to you guys some various unique options, as well as the options that we were talking about in the past. So again, we're in that dead period and getting a lot of information. And as you know, there's a lot of homework that has to be done. The other thing is we have a list of 2 targets in terms of foundations, and we're working with those. And prior to getting that proposal to them, that'll come to Joel and to you folks to review that proposal. So again, the long-range planning, the areas that we're targeting is that school park concept. We're reviewing that. And like I said, there's a lot of promising formal projects that are out there that are ongoing, very good projects. For example, one, we talk about money, we talk about funding, we talk about supporting that type of project. Several of those collaboratives with cities have their actual foundation that's directed at parks, and that's all they do is raise money. I know that there's been some changes with the recreation group. In your master planning, you need to look at the potential of pulling that all together as a collaborative, whether it's under the school or whether it's under an authority. So as we're looking at the Trailway system, and Mr. Edmondson, you're the only one that's not taking a ride with me. So you and I gotta talk. Okay. We gotta travel, okay? Yep. And you guys know what I'm talking about. We gotta take that famous circuit to show the potential of how that Trailway track and our whole facility would merge and work together. What's that? Pikes? Well, let's let the snow go a little bit more before we do that. Right. But Ken probably is riding, so we could probably have him support us carrying the first aid.
It's a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, wait a minute, you two haven't taken.
Oh,
it
yeah,
yet.
we did. Oh, yeah, we did.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick. Anything else?
And the last thing is, one of the parts of the proposal that's important is that framework for collaboration, partnerships, and also the cooperative agreements, so the actual, we can access some of the actual cooperative agreements that were done between groups. And then also some decision on whether you're gonna run it under authority, the governing body, and those types of things. So again, we're in the homework phase. Any questions? February sucks. We all know that every month. You know, trying to get a hold of people at the same time. We're doing all our homework right now. Any
I
questions?
think, sorry, excuse me.
Yes, Joe?
I think we're doing fine. There's a lot to be done, and it's sort of like, you know, you don't know, we're still sort of feeling our process out, but I feel a lot of enthusiasm for what we're attempting to do. And so we gotta keep it going. Gotta keep that going.
But be patient.
Oh, and what we're doing is, we're doing a lot of homework and trying to take care of details so you're not paying for it. You start paying for those types of details, it gets very expensive as you group to it. And the other thing that's really important is your master planning for all of your complexes and all of your buildings. I think you continually have some examples of why that's so important. You know, let's say, how are you gonna add 10 more families in your building? You know, that's gonna be a problem. Or your boiler blows out or whatever, so that master planning. And we have some ideas, we'll also provide you some recommendations on a couple of people that you should look at coming in and doing this. They're very good at what they do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one thing for the board to think about is in June, as part of our work study, potentially devoting some time to review the.
I think that's a great time of the year, you know, generally we're a little slower in the summertime and can put more time to long-term projects. So excellent suggestion.
And we'll have the budget. When do we do the budget?
Well, we'll be doing the budget as spring goes along, and I know, Howard, our normal budget adoption time is in June.
Yeah, June work session, so we'll have to see when that works out. Okay, thank you. How about catastrophic emergency shelter site that Emily understands?
We took some of your suggestions, and thank you for the suggestions, particularly concerning liability for the district. You'll see how that's been reworded, and it is now over at West Shore Medical Center for review. We just didn't quite make it for this, isn't that right, Nancy?
Correct. This past Tuesday was the day that our speaker, who was here, Jim Henderson, was doing his internship. It was submitted back 2 weeks ago to them with the change verbiage of our recommendation. And so he was going to be talking with Ms. Miller over at West Shore. And either he and Ms. Miller, or maybe even just Ms. Miller, will be coming to the April meeting, hopefully with the final document for us to review and or approve.
Any other comments? One of the issues that was brought up was safety. If we're running school at the same time that we have this occurring, what are the safety issues that we need to be aware of? So I think that's still something we need to get information on. We need to get in touch with Bachman.
Of course.
Someone else will give us some input. Thank you. Business action items, Shelley.
I would like to make a motion. We have 4 different sets of minutes to approve. February 11th, the regular board meeting minutes. And also on February 11th, the closed session, February 18th, our special meeting, and on February 18th, our closed session. And I handed you the closed session.
May I make a comment, please?
Yep.
For the February 18th, I believe it was, unfortunately, our students did a wonderful presentation, which is the reason for us having to include you as being present. So that's the change I will recommend for the minutes, if we may, is to put their names as having attended the meeting. And I apologize for that omission.
Motion by Shelley.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. All those in favor say, with the correction, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries for A, B, C, and D. All right, approval of MAP's amended budget as we discussed.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as amended.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Chris. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion carries.
That's the motion, I'm sorry, that is the motion for the amended budget.
Amended budget.
And what about, okay, thank you.
Okay, next item.
I'd like to present to the board for approval, the total expenditures of $140,605.07.
Motion by Paul,
Second.
second by Jim. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next is approval of resolution quitclaim deed. That we had the
Yes.
do earlier.
Yes, and this is the Washington property that should set the world straight again. And all the planets should be aligned from now on. But seriously speaking, this is a class act on the part of the school district. Proud of us.
I'll make the
Motion by Tom, supported by Shelley. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay. Roll call vote, sorry.
Yes.
We need a roll call vote
Yes,
on
please.
that.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr.
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister? Mr. Williams? Dr. Ned?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes? And no. Thank you.
Thank you, lady. All right. We have no new business at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay. Second, public communication. Do we have anything, Shelley?
There's none.
Okay. All right. Announcements. We have a special board meeting Wednesday, March 25th. We will be meeting with MLI at that point. We have a board regular meeting Wednesday, April 8th, and that will be at Madison. That'll be a special, we'll have some kids join us, right? Okay. And board special meeting Wednesday, April 22nd. The other thing is, in our packet, we do have an invitation for the West Shore Area School Board Association Spring Banquet. When do you need to know by?
I believe she was saying a couple of days before the 23rd. Just one moment, please, I'm sorry.
Please come if you can, it's fun.
April 10th, I need that by April 10th.
Okay.
Anthony, put me and Sherry down, please.
Okay.
Same.
Oh, awesome.
Jen and I.
Me too.
And me too.
What do you think?
Both of us.
Paul, I just wanna say something to Ken. Hey, Ken, I don't know if you were at the Ludington Manistee girls basketball game, but you'd have been proud of the kids. They had a sign that said, "We have Mac books." Yeah. That was a chant. When it was me, I had Mac books. They also said, "We have a new Myers, you have the old Myers." I thought it was pretty
Well, there
I
is-
thought of you when I saw that. Be proud of them.
There is computer envy in the county. There is, yeah.
Any other general comments from the board?
I wish the boys good luck at state and girls.
And I don't know if anybody was able to attend, but I was, but our very own Kennedy staff put on an amazing talent show. It was
Saw
hot.
pictures
There's some
on-
big talent in this school, and the teachers, whoa.
Is it gonna be shown anytime in the near future for the video that you?
They have a video. Unfortunately, my video taking skills flopped.
But we can show it
So-
at some point in time.
Yeah, the teachers did a dance to the Lion Sleeps Tonight. It was-
Would you like to show us?
Whoa. What does that mean?
What?
What do you mean by whoa?
Whoa.
Good?
Oh, it was
awesome.
good.
Okay,
It was
that's
good. It was
Well,
very good.
I know you're talking about Matt and Kevin, so I'm a little.
Yeah, it was very good.
Okay.
Words escape you.
Very good.
Let's go ahead and move on. Next, we move on to a closed session. The reason for the closed session is for an expulsion hearing and also to discuss some property issues regarding Kennedy. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay. So